Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Mental Matters. I am your host, Chance Dunkel, and I am here with my co-host, Kristen McQueenie. Last podcast, we talked about communication, and this week we are talking about transition from adolescence to adulthood. Kristen, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thanks. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
I noticed the weather was a little foggy out there, kind of mucking things up, but it sure is bright in here.
Sure is, and you're always a bright star. Now, I said last week we talked about communication and the difficulties we have communicating to our providers. This week we're talking about the transition and transitioning from adolescence to adulthood. So let's start with defining what a transition is.
Okay. Well, transition is a purposeful, planned process that is addressing the medical, psychosocial, education, and vocational needs of an adolescent and a young adult with chronic medical or physical conditions as they move from the child center to adult oriented mental health. So there's a lot of going in there with that transition.
What do you think the hardest part of transitioning is?
Quite often, I think it's feeling supported and knowing where you're going.
So, not having enough support, one might fail the transition and end up and homeless, like we talked about in one of our other podcasts.
Yes, yes. You need the support. We are all looking for it.
Where do we find that support most often?
Well, with most adolescents, they're going to find it with their peers. Some of them find it with their teachers, their school guidance counselors. Sometimes they're in a group or a club, and they can be support as well. Sometimes it's a caregiver. Most often, it is the caregiver. And sometimes the PCP or a family friend. It just depends.
And how do they help with the transition? Like, what do they do that makes that transition go smoother?
Well, it's been a little bit rocky. Quite honestly, when you look at the barriers that those adolescents have, it's a struggle throughout the lifetime for someone who has a comorbid or comorbid condition, more than one. So if they are trying to transition for their mental health and trying to transition for a physical condition, they're doing two things at once. And often when they leave a pediatrician's office and they move to an adult-centered office, they don't know things like making appointments, how to talk to our physicians, how to advocate for themselves.
So basically, we need our supports to show us how to use our big kid voice.
Absolutely.
I say big kid because I'm 19 years old, but I'm still a kid.
Well, at 50, I still feel like a child when I enjoy Moana.
How far I'll go, I'll go. um, so what age is considered an adolescence? If we're talking about, how we still feel like kids, what's a good age that defines where adolescents are?
Well, a lot of times they will say that the population is skewed. They aren't agreeing on it. So for some research will say that the age range for an adolescent is usually between 10 and 18. Some will say it's 12 to 17. Some will even say it's all the way up to age 24. So it really depends on where you are in the world, where you are, if it's defined by the law or if it's defined by an individual.
So I think also it's based on county. I mean, in Oil City right now, that's Venango County, they're allowing people up to the age of like 21 to be part of foster care, and I think maybe even 23 for independent living. And I think it's the same in Erie County right now, but I know in some counties they cut off at 18.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in this particular conversation, then we're defining for at least one program what those groups are or who the group is. So a lot of times in the state of Pennsylvania, if you're 14, you can choose to participate in your medical programs, sign consent to treat forms, rights and responsibilities, start to be more person-centered in your care, involved.
Independent in your mental health too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think it's important for people to know that. I don't think they realize you gain your voice early on, but you can start using your voice at 14.
Mm-hmm.
Even if your parents shut you down, I mean, it's up to you to get mental health treatment. Like, once you hit 14, you have that right.
And every state is different. So in another state, it may be 15, it may be 12. And so asking questions is one of the best things any individual can do, regardless of their age.
Something my friend says that confuses her is you can be 16 and drive, 18 and vote, and you have to be 21 to drink. So, what makes you mature enough to drive at 16 and old enough to vote at 18? Does it have to do with your, yeah, let's say, drinking at 21? Does it have to do with your maturity or brain developing? What?
Well, since we're speaking about the age in those capacities, we're looking at it from a legal standpoint. The state of Pennsylvania has decided that 16 is something, it's a marker of maturity, that you could make choices on how to manipulate a 4-ton truck while you're moving down a highway at 70 miles an hour. I'm not confident in every 16-year-old being able to do that. So it's not necessarily a hard line. I think it's better if we're looking at the individual and asking, are you prepared? Are you confident? Have you practiced? Do you want to do this? Do you feel ready to do this? I think it's more about our mental ability to be engaged as opposed to a steady age.
I guess what confuses me about it is, like I said, 16 to drive, 18 to vote, 21 to drink.
Mm-hmm.
But, and that's all across the United States. But, like in Pennsylvania, 14, you can make medical decisions. Why can't that be the same across?
Right. So you can make a medical decision at 14, but you can't drive a vehicle. My guess, because medical decision is only you. A vehicle involves other people.
Well, no, I was meaning more so like, why can't all 14-year-olds have some say in their medical treatment? Why can't all 14-year-olds have say in their mental health treatment when it's them? It's impacting them and how they live their day-to-day lives. What if, my brother right now, he's 13 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and the people taking care of him aren't exactly helping him get into mental health treatment.
So
They're discouraging it.
Yeah, so I think this goes back to some of the things that we've talked to before about what's important to you and what's important to your brother may be different than what's important to those that are currently caring for him. So at 13 years old, how does he advocate for himself? How does he be invested in his mental health care? At 13, he speaks up and he says, I have these symptoms or I'm having these experiences and I want to tell you about it, doc.
Yeah. And I guess that's where the transition comes in.
Absolutely.
From not using your voice to learning to use your voice.
And it's hard when you have someone that's not as supportive or if someone is in disagreement because those values and beliefs can be different. I know from my own self, my parents have some of those stigmas and stereotypes that they are still dealing with. They're in their 70s and they have certain kinds of ideas about what is mental health and who's the boss, what kind of care is appropriate, when do we stop being friends with somebody because and ...
So it comes down to communication, like we talked about last week.
Absolutely.
Communication is part of our transition, learning to use our voice, learning to make decisions. What else is part of the transition?
Well, if we go back to that definition, we talked about planning. So we're making plans. We know that in most cases, we are going to need somebody to help us out. And so we're having a plan, just like you plan for a driver's license or you plan for graduation from high school. We're planning a doctor's appointment. We're scheduling, we're attending, and we're talking about those symptoms. It's purposeful. We have a reason we're doing something. We're not just willy-nilly kind of going through the motions, whatever, don't be engaged. Transition's about purpose and planning.
So if we were looking at our feelings chart, what feelings might we experience during this transition?
Mm, that's a really good question. I think for the general public, there's confusion, fear, frustration, misunderstandings, a sense of loss in some. But we may also have those individuals who feel excited that they can share now and be heard better, that they can learn how to make or schedule a medical appointment with someone, or that they can talk about the symptoms and have that provider look at them and listen to what's being said.
And how do young people find resources to help with the transition?
Right now, there are very few. We need to pull together. We need to support each other. We need to find a way.
We need to show each other that it's okay to make our voices heard.
I agree.
So I know one resource is the independent living program, and another is getting a blended case manager. Is there any other you can think of?
I would like to go back to that conversation we had about resources in schools. Having a student assistance program and talking with the guidance counselor, talking with the school nurse, they are resources and they will help with whatever they can to connect you.
And connection is important for everyone. It's important to have someone you can talk to, have someone you can open up to, because you never know when things are going to hit you. You never know when you're going to need to talk, and so it's important to have connections both in school and in your personal life.
Absolutely. And those people may change from time to time, but that's okay. Adjustments aren't always fun. I can definitely agree with that part of the world. Yet, a lot of things can be learned from the experiences that we have. And we can share those with other individuals. We share them with our peers. We share them with our coworkers. We talk about mental health. We don't hide it. That's a huge way to help and support other people. Just knowing, hey, my coworker is also experiencing depression. Oh my gosh, I'm not alone. I know somebody else who is experiencing depression. Wow, maybe I should start talking about that and say, hey, you're not the only person here at work.
So you're opening up that door to a conversation that may be difficult for others to open up about.
Absolutely.
And I think we did a little bit of that when we were talking about the LGBTQ resources and other things we talked about, like summer safety, when we were talking about, it's okay to say no, it's okay to walk away.
Absolutely. I have a question for you, though.
Okay, let's hear this question.
Yeah, I know. I mean, gosh, I can't help but wonder what we think about transitioning in the independent living program. That's a resource that we have in Erie, and not everybody gets to participate in that.
So I was lucky to have that resource, because otherwise I'd probably be a lost mess. But it's like having close friends who nudge you in the right direction without telling you what to do. It's like having this mentor who is your friend, but also shows you how to set boundaries.
Mm.
They show you it's okay to use your voice. It's okay to say no. It's okay to speak up when you're not being treated fairly. It's having the support if you're going through something medically or mentally. Having them show up and encourage you when you're getting the help you need or you're doing the right things.
Sounds like a cheerleader.
They're like your little cheerleaders.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm 50. Am I too old for the program?
I don't know. We had to talk to them about that.
Oh boy. I could use a cheerleader. I think we all could.
Listen, I'll be your cheerleader.
Oh, thank goodness.
You got this.
Thank you.
Oh.
Oh gosh, that's what I was saying earlier about it was foggy outside, but it's bright in here. Just being with someone that you trust and that you have a good relationship with. It allows us to open those doors and talk about things and be truthful and transparent with each other.
Yeah, like here's another example of a transition that I've had recently. Not that it's a transition from adolescence to adulthood, but I transitioned when we first started this podcast. I had no clue what I was doing. Not really interested in it, but did it because Katie kept asking me to.
Yeah, she's a little bit of a bugger.
She's persistent.
Oh, there we go. Persistent. Katie is persistent.
But I did it, and having you, encourage me, that's made that transition smoother. You were a cheerleader in that. You're like, we can do this. Just take it slow.
Absolutely.
So as long as you have a cheerleader on your side, things can go a lot smoother. Let's see. How about you? What was your transition like?
Very, very scary. Ah, goodness. Now, going from my transition of an adolescent pediatric to an adult-centered programs and mental health care. Wow, we didn't talk about mental health when I was a teenager. And so it was really difficult. I had a lot of friends that were depressed, a lot of friends that were anxious, worried about what it would be like to adjust to college. And we didn't always have someone to speak to. Uh, Myself, I was not in sports. I was not in the band. I was not in very many clubs. But I did a great job being in the yearbook, and I probably had about two people that I really felt I could be honest with. And I would say three teachers. And if it weren't for those two friends and those three teachers, I don't know how much lonelier or difficult it would have been.
But you had three people. That's more than some people.
It is. It is.
I remember I was not very popular in school. Especially elementary school, and so I struggled with getting bullied and not having friends. But there was always the teachers that you could go back to.
Mm-hmm.
I remember in second grade, it was the hardest grade in elementary school for me, and I got bullied a lot, and so I transferred schools. And my second grade teacher, Mr. D, he was so welcoming. I would color on my fingernails with highlighters.
Oh my gosh. Oh, he must have wondered where all that was going.
He did, but instead of yelling at me for it, he one day started doing it too. So that way I wasn't alone.
Oh my gosh.
He just made you feel included. He made you feel together.
That is a wonderful story.
Yeah, so I guess it's all about how we can include people.
I agree.
And I think that's what mental health is about. It's about including others and knowing how to separate yourself from the bad things.
Yeah. As we transition, whether it's from high school to college or from a lovely high school to training with maybe the military or workforce, we always have transitions. And some we plan for very, very well, and others not so well. But the more we plan and are willing to learn from our experiences, the more we will transition with success.
So some well-planned things we can transition, or some well-planned transitions we can have is a job, continuing education, doing a podcast.
Ooh.
Some things we can't plan for is sudden loss, lack of employment,
Absolutely.
or lack of somewhere to live. It can happen very suddenly and without warning.
One of the other things that is really an opportunity for our youth to transition from that pediatric level of care to adult mental health care is planning ahead by knowing what is it that we are going to need. Mental health doesn't stop because high school stopped. It's not over. It's different. It's not over. So we have to plan ahead. Who's going to see us when Dr. A only sees children and we turn 18 and we still need medication or counseling?
It's like, how do we talk to Dr. A and find out who's Dr. B? Who's our next doctor?
You got it.
And so I guess we just have to use our voice, but some of us are scared to use our voice. I know when I turned 18 years old, I had no clue, how to use my voice. I did, but I didn't. I
Okay.
knew how to ask questions. I knew how to ask for help, but I didn't know who to talk to.
Yes. I enjoy the fact that we have 211 in our county and we can dial that. I know that sometimes it's hard to ask people because we're like, well, I'm not so sure. What are they going to think of me? Do I know them well enough? So 211 can be very helpful. We also have 988. 988 is not something that we think about all the time. It's so new. But calling 988 and saying, I know that I'm going to need an adult psychiatrist. Can you maybe connect me with somebody in my area to help me with that? Because I'm really scared. I need to be prepared and I'm not. Please help me get connected.
Yeah, there's Safe Harbor.
Yes.
There's crisis services.
Mm-hmm.
There's all
Stare.
these people out here who are willing to help. It's
Mm-hmm.
just us using our voice and saying, "I need help.
Right.
I Can you help me?" And there's nothing to be ashamed of saying that.
Oh my
I've
gosh,
I've
no.
just this week I had to reach out and say I need help, and so I got help. I have a therapist now.
And you learn from those things.
You do.
You learn from the experience, and you're here sharing some of that so that other listeners can learn. Oh gosh, I could do that too.
Yeah.
And it is important. Even as an adult, quite frequently you transition from being that adolescent, that young adult, into adult mental health care. And there's all these new expectations for you. Don't miss any appointments. Don't be late. Make sure you pick up your prescriptions. So there's lots and lots of things that as an adult, the world looks at us and goes, did you do that? Well, it's not my problem. It's not my fault. What do you want from me?
It's about taking ownership and
Absolutely.
responsibility.
It's quite often when we transition, we know, okay, I've got this one appointment. I'm going to go to this one appointment. And maybe it's not a good appointment. Maybe that's not the right fit for us. Maybe that particular psychiatrist or counselor isn't. Well, maybe they're not the right fit because it's just a difference in the two of your connections, and that's okay. But don't quit. We see many, many, many people across the United States, across the world. They will go to one adult appointment for psychiatric, for mental health. The world will say they have successfully transitioned because they got to one adult appointment.
It takes more than one. You're not going to get the help you need in one appointment. You have to continue to use your voice. You have to continue to talk about it.
You do. You do. And quite frequently, there are so many helpers at the pediatric level for those young adults and adolescents. You mentioned BCMs, you mentioned ILP. There are so many people that help to get you set up, but they're not allowed to cross the bridge with you. They have to stay on their side in pediatrics. And so that's why programs like independent living program are so important. Why having cheerleaders and BCMs and other supports are so important because they can walk with you. Counselors walk with you. It's important.
Yep, they walk with you and they give you the resources. Well, they show you the resources. You just have to be willing to reach out to the resources.
Give it a try.
That's not hurt.
Oh, if that one's not the one for you, you try something different. Just keep it legal, folks.
Please. Well, I think we're coming to the end of our time here. But is there anything else you would like to add on to this?
I would like to say if we need to transition and you're just not sure what to do, please reach out. Please reach out to the schools. Please reach out to 211. Please reach out to someone in the field and ask, can you direct me? Can you help me?
Well, I think that's about the end of it, but I think we talked about some heavy stuff today, and I hope
Mhm.
you all get something from it. On that note, be safe, be good, and we'll see you in the next episode.